It all started on a quiet Tuesday morning when I stepped outside to grab the mail. I live in a cul-de-sac tucked away where traffic is rare and life is usually peaceful. That's why I was surprised to hear the low hum of a car engine coming from the side of my house. As I turned, I saw a sleek black BMW cutting across my driveway like it was part of the road. Behind the tinted window sat none other than Ms. Clarkson, our HOA president, sunglasses perched on her nose like she owned the entire neighborhood. At first, I thought it was a one-time mistake. Maybe she was lost in thought. Maybe she misjudged the turn. I shrugged it off, though it struck me as odd. The next day, it happened again. Same time, same car, same maneuver. She turned out of the connecting street, zipped straight across my driveway to shave off a few seconds from her trip, and sped away without so much as a wave. I stood there, dumbfounded, clutching the mail in my hand. By the third time, I realized this wasn't an accident. It was routine. My driveway had apparently become her personal shortcut. Now, I tried to be a good neighbor. I mow my lawn on schedule, repaint the shutters when asked, and pay the HOA dues on time. But watching the president herself break an unspoken rule of respect left a sour taste in my mouth. The crunch of her tires on my concrete was becoming a sound I dreaded. Every time she did it, I felt like a piece of my property was being stolen, even if it was just for a second or two. That afternoon, I stood by the window, waiting, just to be sure. Right on schedule, her BMW appeared, gleaming in the sun. She didn't slow down, didn't hesitate, just rolled right across my driveway with practiced ease. She didn't even glance in my direction. To her, it was nothing. But to me, it was like she'd stomped across my front porch without asking as her car disappeared around the corner. I felt my jaw tighten. It wasn't just about the shortcut anymore. It was about the message. The HOA president, the person who lectured neighbors about leaving garbage cans out too long, was treating my property like it was hers to use. And I knew, sooner or later, this was going to have to stop. Want me to continue with Chapter 2 in 400 words next? The next weekend, I decided it was time to say something. I waited until I saw her BMW parked outside her house, polished to perfection like always. Taking a deep breath, I walked over and knocked on her door. Ms. Clarkson answered with her usual smug smile, as if she had already prepared herself to be superior in any conversation. "Good morning," I began politely. "I just wanted to bring something up. I've noticed you've been driving across my driveway lately. Could you please not use it as a shortcut?" Her smile didn't falter, but her tone changed instantly. "Oh, that? Don't be dramatic. It's not hurting anyone," she said, brushing her hand as though she were swatting a fly. "It's the fastest way to the main road, and honestly, I'm in a hurry most mornings. You should be flattered your driveway is so useful." Flattered. The word stung. I forced a tight smile and replied, "I'd appreciate it if you found another route. It's still my property." Her eyebrows arched as if I had just challenged her throne. "Technically, the HOA has guidelines about keeping driveways clear and well-maintained. I hope you're following those, because I'd hate to bring it up at the next meeting." I blinked at her. Instead of acknowledging she was in the wrong, she twisted the rules to put me on the defensive. It was the perfect display of her power trip, the president of the HOA using her title as a shield against accountability. "Of course I follow the rules," I said firmly. "That doesn't give anyone the right to cut across my property without permission." Her smile turned icy. "Like I said, it's no big deal. I'll try to keep it in mind." Her tone made it clear she had no intention of changing her behavior. She gave me one last condescending nod before closing the door in my face. I walked back home fuming. The arrogance, the entitlement, the casual dismissal, it all piled up inside me like a fire ready to spark. This wasn't just about a shortcut anymore. This was about her thinking the rules applied to everyone but her. She was the queen of the HOA kingdom, and in her mind, my driveway was just another piece of land she could claim when it suited her. But I wasn't about to let that stand for long. Do you want me to expand Chapter 3 in 400 words now? Days went by, and her arrogance only grew bolder. Each morning, like clockwork, I'd hear the hum of her BMW's engine and the crunch of her tires rolling across my driveway. She didn't even try to hide it anymore. If anything, it felt like she slowed down on purpose, almost daring me to confront her again. Every time she passed, I could feel my blood pressure rise. I had already spoken to her once, and she'd brushed me off like I was some child complaining about spilled milk. Now, it was clear she thought I wouldn't do anything further. The final straw came on a Friday evening. I had just parked my sedan on the side of the driveway, leaving enough space for my truck to still fit comfortably. I went inside, sat down with a cup of coffee, and not 5 minutes later, I heard the sound of wheels on concrete. I rushed to the window and saw her BMW squeezing between my car and the edge of the driveway. She came within inches of scraping my paint, and my heart stopped for a moment. She didn't even slow down to consider the risk. She just gunned it through as though my property were some obstacle course designed for her amusement. Stepped outside, waving my arms to get her attention, but she sped off without so much as a glance. That was it. The disrespect, the potential damage to my car, and her complete disregard for my warnings had pushed me past the point of patience. That night, I sat in my living room, staring out at my driveway. I thought about filing a complaint with the HOA, but then I laughed to myself. She was the president. Complaining to her was like shouting into a void. If I wanted this to stop, I had to take matters into my own hands. An idea slowly began to form. It wasn't complicated, but it would be effective. If she wanted to use my driveway as her shortcut, I'd make sure that shortcut was no longer available. My property wasn't her racetrack, and I wasn't going to let her get away with treating it like one. The plan took shape in my head, simple, legal, and guaranteed to hit her right where it hurt, her precious BMW. As I went to bed that night, I felt calmer than I had in weeks. Tomorrow, she was going to learn a lesson she wouldn't soon forget. Want me to expand Chapter 4 in 400 words next and wrap the story with a satisfying payoff? The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, determined to put my plan into motion. I went outside and carefully maneuvered my sedan across the bottom half of my driveway, angled slightly so that no car could possibly squeeze by. Then I pulled my truck across the other side, leaving the two vehicles lined up like barricades. To anyone else, it looked like I had just parked awkwardly, but I knew exactly what I was doing. The shortcut that Miss Clarkson had taken for granted was now completely blocked. I didn't have to wait long. Around 8 o'clock, I heard that familiar hum of her BMW. I peeked out the window and watched as she rounded the corner with her usual confidence. But when she came up to my driveway, she slammed on the brakes. Her car idled for a moment as if she couldn't quite believe what she was seeing. She rolled forward an inch, then another, clearly trying to calculate whether she could squeeze between my vehicles. She couldn't. I stepped out onto my porch, coffee mug in hand, pretending to be casual. "Morning," I called out, forcing a polite smile. Her window rolled down, and her face was flushed with irritation. "What's all this? Why are your cars blocking the driveway like that?" "Oh, just figured I'd park here for now," I said lightly. "Keeps people from cutting across, you know." Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, she didn't have a quick retort. She glanced back at her BMW, then at my cars, and realized she was trapped. With no shortcut available, she had no choice but to reverse awkwardly and take the long way around. As she backed up, a couple of neighbors walking their dogs stopped to watch, whispering to each other with amused smiles. The queen of the HOA, Forced to retreat from the very driveway she'd claimed as her own, she shot me one last glare before speeding off down the proper street, tires screeching louder than usual. I just sipped my coffee, enjoying the rare taste of victory. From that day forward, she never used my driveway again. She avoided eye contact whenever we crossed paths, and although she tried to reassert her authority at HOA meetings, everyone in the neighborhood had seen her little spectacle. The woman who enforced rules like a tyrant had finally been outsmarted by the very homeowner she underestimated. And honestly, it felt better than I ever imagined.